The Folster family introduces Chevy's new little car, Vega. Actually, Vega is a family in itself.
Hey, Dad, can I take it with Junior next? Yeah,
This is the standard sedan. It comes with bucket seats, front disc brakes, and a highly responsive 140 cubic inch overhead cam engine. The hatchback coupe, a very sporty little car, but also very practical. The whole back end opens up and the back seat folds down. You'll love it.
See you, honey.
This is the Vega Camback. It's a wagon and then some. Our fourth and final little car is actually a little truck. Vega, the little car that does everything well. Go see it, them, at your Chevrolet dealers.
America sat on top of the world in 1950. And who was sitting on top of America? General Motors. Government contracts during World War II made General Motors the world's largest arms manufacturer. After World War II, government investment in highways ensured a growing customer base for their automobiles. GM is one of the greatest success stories in the history of free market capitalism, and a lesson in how that free market is shaped by government action. But GM's workers weren't sharing in that success. Rampant inflation after World War II cut deeply into their wages. Most of GM's workers belonged to the United Auto Workers, the largest union in the country, led by Walter Reuther. Reuther demanded a 30% raise, among other things. GM claimed they couldn't afford it. Reuther demanded they open their books to prove it. This resulted in a series of labor conflicts between GM and the UAW, including a 113-day strike in 1946. If GM was forced to open its books, what else could the UAW make them do? Who really called the shots in the business world? This wasn't just about wages and inflation. This was about whether the idea of democracy extended into the workplace. The issue was settled in 1950, when GM and the UAW came to historic agreement. The UAW would receive cost of living increases to their wages, meaning regular raises designed to keep up with inflation. They would also have a pension plan and health insurance. In return, the UAW promised not to strike for 5 years, at which point a new contract could be agreed upon. It was a landmark moment in the history of American business and labor, one that Fortune magazine dubbed the Treaty of Detroit. Both sides saw benefits. The UAW got wages and frills that put them firmly in the middle class. GM retained their control over managerial decisions. Both sides agreed to long periods of peace without strikes or slowdowns. It allowed GM management to focus on long-term investment, and it gave UAW peace of mind that they would share in the returns on those investments. The Treaty of Detroit set the standard across the American economy. This is what the golden age of American industry would look like. Businesses could expand the production of goodies, confident in the fact that there would be a middle class stable enough to afford those goodies. Business, labor, and government worked together to manage the economy. This system sustained consistent economic growth for over 20 years and ensured those gains would be shared equitably with the working class. But in the 1970s, things started to change. GM was facing competition from foreign companies who built smaller, cheaper cars. To compete, they redesigned their factory in Lordstown, Ohio. Instead of making 60 Chevy Impalas an hour, they would make 100 of the smaller Chevy Vegas an hour. One car every 36 seconds. They did this by using machines to replace many of the workers and by speeding up the assembly line so the workers who did keep their jobs would have to work harder. Needless to say, the UAW workers didn't appreciate this. Not only did they have to work harder, but they were also subject to stricter forms of workplace discipline. They had to attend to the machines every second of the day. Much of the joy and creativity they used to have producing cars went out the window. And this wasn't the UAW of the Treaty of Detroit era, who were the grandchildren of Ellis Island immigrants from Europe. The workers at Lordstown were younger, darker, shaggier than the previous generation. They were children of the 60s, the last of the baby boom generation. Not only did they expect decent pay, they wanted to find fulfillment in their jobs as well. They protested the new workplace regime by showing up drunk or intentionally slowing down their work. Another showdown was brewing between the UAW and General Motors. It came in 1972 with the Lordstown strike, which lasted for 3 weeks. The workers had to face it without Walter Reuther, who died in a plane crash in 1970. At the end of the day, UAW leadership negotiated a new contract with better wages and a relaxation of some workplace rules. Many of the workers who had been fired were even brought back. It was a reprise of the Treaty of Detroit, another victory for the American working class. Or was it? The workers at Lordstown didn't really see it that way. While they did get more money in their pockets, they would never get the same joy from their jobs that their parents did. The machines would still produce Chevy Vegas. What's more, their union kind of forced them to accept the new contract. I mean, why not? Weren't they making more money? Didn't they get to keep their jobs? In the minds of UAW leaders, why would they complain? It was a new age in the American economy. It was bad enough that business leaders exercised total control of the workplace, but they were doing so with the blessing of union leaders. The Lordstown workers felt out of touch with their own union. UAW brass was from a different world than UAW workers. The brass sat behind desks and made six-figure salaries. The workers sweated in factories and were middle class. The brass came of age during World War II, patriotically supporting the government in its fight against Hitler and, later, against communism. The workers had friends and family getting drafted to Vietnam, making them much less supportive of America's imperial adventures overseas. The brass rubbed elbows with Washington politicians while staying in fancy hotels. The workers rubbed elbows with their machines and lived in single-family suburban homes. For decades, unions worked with business and government to keep order in the economy. That order was based on a simple agreement. Workers would not demand democracy in the workplace as long as they got paid middle-class wages. This was the regime established at the Treaty of Detroit and upheld at Lordstown.
Because our free economy will not work unless we maintain an expanding and dynamic balance between higher productive power balanced by higher purchasing power. And when one gets out of joint with the other, we get in trouble.
But things were changing in the 1970s. This new generation of workers wanted work to be meaningful, but all their union could do was deliver them middle-class wages. Union leadership was falling out of touch with the workers. Workers were falling out of touch with their jobs. The drama at Lordstown was just the beginning of a large shift in American economics and culture.